Good morning, everyone. This is Zhenshan Li again. This section is a very special call for proposal section. We invited Professor Rosie from Romania. She wants to share a special topic, digital citizenship, how to educate the participation. Let's welcome Professor Rosie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. I'm really grateful. Thank you for the Open Culture Foundation for letting me present this topic, which concerns me, not only the digital citizenship topic, but also the participation topic. I listened carefully to the previous speakers, and I must confess that I envy you, because you could work in environments which were really responsive and where trust worked well to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 in the country. As opposed to these cases, to the case of Korea or Taiwan, Romania is on the other end of the spectrum, where there is neither a good digital citizenship education nor a strong trust in government measures. We could explain it through historical roots and also through the harsh communist past of the country. But this is not the aim of our talk today. It's rather to look at how can we, as a civil society actors, individuals and organizations, do something for a better participation in these practices. So I can see that the organizers already shared my presentation. Then I should say that we can move to the next slide. Thank you for helping me with. Of course, it's important that that participation as part of the democracy works for as many people as possible. I looked at three elements or three frameworks, conditions under which participations can work really well. Webler and Tuller's ideas are very important, I think, about fairness and competence, criteria of fairness and competence. Why is this important? Because usually we take more care about competence in participatory processes. We take more care how to organize these processes, how to invite people, how to organize the events and the participatory part. And maybe we tend to neglect the ethical aspects of the participatory process. Maybe we neglect the part of the openness of the dialogue, the inclusiveness of the vulnerable groups and individuals in the dialogue. On the second hand, there is the digital citizenship issue. We all live in a very hyper-connected society. Even Romania, we are lagging behind all the European Union countries, I must say. And there is a strong digital divide between the rural areas and the urban areas in the country. So when it comes to digital citizenship, there is also already a problem at the entry level, at the access level, because some people don't have not even the minimal infrastructural conditions to enter the digital highway. We'll look at the conditions, not only the technical, but also the communicative and also the more complex participatory aspects of digital citizenship. And thirdly, I would bring to your attention a framework of competencies developed by the Council of Europe on how an open and democratic culture should be based on different types of competencies, not only communicative competencies, but many others. We can move forward. Thank you. The next slide. Let me tell you a little bit about a failed citizen participation project in my hometown. I live in the central Romania in a small town called St. George, and this statue was erected exactly 20 years ago. Apparently, we could vote for the ways in which the local government will assign this statue project, and we could vote which St. George and the Dragon project we would like more. Little did we know that our 65,000 citizens vote only counted as a single vote in the process, and I think none of the public voted for this now so-called dinosaur or scorpion type of a dragon project. It became a little bit of a funny symbol of the town. However, it's also a reminder that if we came with this frustration as citizens that our voices were not heard, it's because the process was not open and transparent. We only found out how little our opinion counted at the end of the project. Next slide. So let's go back to Webler and Tuller's fair and competent participation criteria. When we look at these criteria, of course, the fairness starts with the agenda and the rules of the process. We should ask ourselves the questions whether there is an equal opportunity of involving in shaping the agenda, shaping the rules and the conclusions of the participatory process, or we are rather asked at the end of the road, and then whatever the conclusion is, we have no interference with it. On the second hand, discussions. How can we get involved as stakeholders, as people with an interest, or people affected in a decision making? Are we given the opportunity to be present, or are we given the opportunity to be represented if we cannot be present at these discussions? And if we are present, are we given the opportunity to be critical? Why is it so important in a society like ours, which is quite hierarchical, in many ways very traditional, the Romanian society? In many ways, the whole decision-making process by tradition works in a very top-down manner rather than a bottom-up manner. It is an important thing that critical thinking is allowed, and it is a real opportunity for participants in the dialogue. Here we need a shift. We need an educational input to develop these skills, and also a shift in mentalities, in ways of thinking, in accepting not only the top-down authoritarian approach to issues, but also to a more bottom-up approach. And of course, the competence rules of participation. We usually take much care of how to organize such participatory events. We contact people, we take care of organizing all the aspects and the logistics of the events. Sometimes we tend to neglect elements in the communication process concerning language. Are we inclusive enough in terms of language used? Can we include all the stakeholders in the discussions, or we use rather a jargon language, a very insider language that is not accessible to all? Do we give the opportunity for those who don't have the language skills or comprehensive skills to somehow access key ideas in a more easily comprehensible formats. It's also important in online spaces. We know very well that the World Wide Web Consortium developed a set of recommendations in terms of accessibility standards for web spaces. Here it can be applied as well, and also the discussion, the way the validity works in these frameworks, whether there is a tendency, an effort to reach a common understanding and to find those common values that can be base of a dialogue. It's also part of the competence of the discussion, but maybe when we talk about values, it's also a little bit about fairness criteria. Next slide. When it comes to digital citizenship, I was sharing the idea that there is a strong digital divide in Romania between the rural and the urban households. I am pretty sure that some digital divides exist in each country, even in Taiwan or even in South Korea, where the digital highway is I'm sure pretty developed. So on a basic level, there is the technical level. It's not only the skills, although this model focuses on skills, but it's also about access. How can we make use of our access opportunities? Why I'm saying is this is because many households, even if they don't have a fixed broadband opportunity to access the internet, at least the mobile access, and at least on 3G networks, is ensured. But for instance, elderly people, people with less educational background, people with less technical skills. There is also a gender divide. Women are less skilled in ICTs, especially in rural areas, than men. So we can see all these lines of separation, which had dramatic consequences when it comes to coping with COVID and access to reliable data. Romania is one of the countries where people refused to be treated in hospitals because they believed in conspiracy theories they read on Facebook, and people died in hospitals because they refused treatment and the doctors could do nothing. There was a case presented 2 days ago in the mainstream media that a very problematic case of COVID should have been transferred to Germany in a high-end hospital, and he refused because was convinced that he will be chipped, and somebody is manipulating, and he is not really ill. So it's not a simple issue. It costs lives. How can you access reliable information? So it's the communicative aspect and the way local and global awareness is put in context as a part of the digital citizenship education, and also not to forget the networking agency, the way we get involved in a higher level of literacy in online interactions, not only as consumers of information, but also as prosumers, as people who get involved, and at the next level, the interaction, which is practical oriented and change oriented, not only waiting others to do things, but also us getting involved in this space. And then last but not least, the critical perspective, critical thinking skills, and also rethinking the whole participation process and the way internet can shape participation. I heard very good cases and examples provided in Korea, in Taiwan, of platforms where citizens could get involved and could not only get information but also provide the vital information, which is very important in crisis situations. And yes, it would be useful for us as well to have these citizen mapping, crowd mapping practices on a more extensive level, not only in urban areas of young urban professional people who are very skilled in IT, but everyone. Can I have the next slide, please?
Rosie, I hate to interrupt you, but I think we
My time is
probably
up.
run out of time. Yes.
Oh, okay.
We have some questions on Slidos. We have 4 questions on Slidos.
Great.
But still, we run out of time. So maybe you can shortly respond to any of them, and maybe we can reply this question later on email or any form.
Sure. And okay. I will share the slides on the website. Many failed cases under crisis situations, but bottom-up and inclusive civic engagement projects are mainly isolated civil society organizations projects, and civil society organizations are mainly living in a bubble of their own. There is too little communication between the government and the civil society, and it's pretty formal. I think it's so much to do in this area to improve this communication between CSOs and the government. Not only from the government should we expect as civil society actors, but also we should be more proactive and be more critical and more present in all the spaces and discussions. There is, for instance, a coalition for a clean Romania, a cleaner Romania, clean in an ethical way, not necessarily environmentally way. So there are some good initiatives. They should be made more mainstreamed. Yes, Romania is a member of OGP, and there are also some studies made, and I did some research to look how this process is going on. How my government would describe the open in a very formal way, minimalist way. Let's do what is necessary and provide all those interaction ways of dialogue. I think there is a need for a shift and to be more interactive in these spaces. How's people's attitudes when asking them join a discussion, policy making? Yeah, again, there is a tiny active minority, civil society actors, and also young people more active, urban people more active, educated people are more active, and if you look at the general population in statistics, whether they get involved in civil society activities and participatory activities, we can see very little participation. Maybe we vote for a statue, for a St. George and the Dragon statue, but many people won't get involved in crucial issues. How to overcome digital divide? It's a long process of investment, but it was marked with really scandalous cases of government corruption. I think very few countries have an ICT minister in jail. We have one. It shows how much money is involved and how much power is involved in the digital infrastructure development, and there is a lot to do. We will get European Union resilience help, and out of this help, a lot will be invested in digital infrastructure and also combating digital divide. I hope I answered the questions.
Thank you so much. We'll keep in touch. And if you are watching our video, please stay tuned. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
For the audience, the next section, we are very grateful to invite PDIS. PDIS is Public Digital Innovation Space, led by Audrey Tang. For the next 10 minutes, they have a short video want to share with us. So please.
I believe many people here who've been working hard for the open government have asked themselves the question, what kind of mechanism is needed to enable open government to be implemented and operated durably within government? I'm Ewan Chan, a researcher of the Executive Yuan, and we often call ourselves members of PDIS. PDIS stands for Public Digital Innovation Space, a unit established after Audrey Tang took office as Digital Minister in October 2016. We are a pilot office within the administration, similar to pioneers in other countries, such as the Policy Lab in the UK, the 18F, and Digital Service in the US. We try to use innovative methods to redesign the public policymaking process and make it more user-centric, so that the civil society can more easily participate and the mutual trust between the people and the administration can be enhanced. Before becoming a PDIS member, I worked as a lawmaker assistant in Taiwan's parliament for 3 years, handling proposal drafting, constituency issues, and campaigns. Besides that, I've also devoted myself to environmental issues as an NGO researcher. I spent 2 years in Eastern Taiwan to conduct public communication among local government, tribes, firms, and various stakeholders. Now, I'm responsible for open government. I believe that whether it is a public opinion agency, an NGO, an administrative department, or even just a citizen, we all expect our government to have a more timely response to the needs of multiple stakeholders and make politics and policies more transparent. Maybe you are curious about whether PDIS is the only unit within the administration that promotes open government? And if Audrey is no longer a cabinet member, can open government in Taiwan still be pushed forward? First of all, participation officers, in short POs, play an essential role in carrying out the work of open government. The directions for implementing the role of participation officers in the Executive Yuan and subordinate agencies was formulated in 2017. It is an official document approved by the Premier. Since then, at least one person in each ministry should be appointed as PO, and their job is to strengthen the horizontal liaison work between ministries and assist the head of their ministries in evaluating policies and public opinion. The existence of the directions POs not only makes sure the pilot work of open government will be properly implemented, but also ensure the continuity of the open government policy. As the directions requires, during the policy formulation and promotion process, each ministry should give full consideration to transparency, participation, accountability, inclusion, and other basic principles of open government. At the same time, it also guides POs to have the ability to communicate with the public, translate the official announcement into people's language, and fully record the discussion between stakeholders. To equip POs better, PDIS held consensus camps and training courses to discuss with POs what kind of difficulty they've encountered, what assistance they need. We say that we want to establish a user-centric discussion method, and POs are our users as well. How can PDIS and POs promote public-private partnership together? We accumulate examples and experience through collaborative meetings. By doing so, the principles of open government and real case feedback combine and become more useful. So far, more than 100 collaborative meetings have been held, and every PO has their lesson learned. Now, I'd like to share a case from a Shiba Inu called Xiaomi and its owner Meidad, who proposed on the joint platform with the people in Taiwan He advocated that Taiwan's railways transportation should be more friendly to pets, like relaxing the size limit of the pet cage. This issue is related to the Taiwan Railways Administration, in short TRA. Before the online petition gets 5,000 votes on the joint platform, it has not become a real case. POs responded. The POs of ministry take the initiative and raise the issue to the monthly meeting of POs and display the willingness to hold collaborative meetings for this petition. During the meeting preparation, PDs worked with POs and civil servants from TRA. We not only invite proponents and seconders to the meeting, but also first-line station attendants, train captains, general passengers, etc. Through guided discussion, every attendee put forward their respective needs and experiences and sought solutions that are acceptable to everyone. After the meeting, Midad wrote on his blog, "This is the first time that TRA has cooperated with the people, and I can see the civil servants are willing to improve the situation." Through participation, the public increases their understanding and trust in TRA and even suggests a pet-friendly education cooperation plan, hoping to continue the cooperative relationship with TRA. 1 month after the meeting, TRA actively launched a 3-month trial plan to relax the size limit of the package. Our experience shows that when the meeting is handled in an open government way, people's issues can be solved without taking violent protest or action, and the government has no substantial risk either. This is a virtuous cycle where trust is building hereby. Maybe you are curious, is there too much work and burden in one PO's head? In fact, we are trying to make POs from different ministries working as a team. Even POs from irrelevant departments are expected to give a hand as their own business. For instance, POs from the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Education, and the Financial Management Commission were asked to be moderator of group discussion in the railways pet-friendly meeting. One more thing worth mentioning is that PDs used to be responsible for all of the presiding work of the collaborative meeting, but we discovered that serving as a group moderator requires impartiality and a high degree of empathy, which is an indispensable ability in open government work. Therefore, we started to let POs take turns to lead a group discussion in 2020. Being a group moderator, POs have the opportunity to break away from their departmentalism and try to listen to different opinions from the multi-stakeholders on an objective position. This has greatly changed the habits that POs used to do things as civil servants, such as taking an inactive posture facing the outside opinions and being anxious to defend themselves. This experience of the collaborative meeting preparation and group presiding a truly fertile soil for PO's growth. We're happy to see ministries starting to hold meetings by way of open government without PD's assistance. The cultural change and mindset collaboration are happening. For example, the Council of Agriculture has organized a series of meetings on stray animals and wildlife protection by using the open government ways. We hope that PDs has been bring not take away, so that any civil servant who wants to integrate more open government into their daily work will not be clueless and confused. Moreover, they are not alone. PDs and PO team are always
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, I'll be the moderator, Xin-Chen Xiao, and I'll be introducing our next speaker, Chen Xin. She'll be talking about the topic, opening up the black box of CSR with open data, the case of Dobbin footprint. And to briefly introduce Chen Xin, she's a volunteer and a former intern at Green Citizens Action Alliance, an environmental NGO based in Taipei, Her work with the organization focuses on Carbon Footprint Project, where environmental advocacy is fueled by open data. She currently works as a software engineer at Impact Institute, a spin-off of the True Price and a social enterprise based in Amsterdam. Let's welcome Chen Xin.
Thank you, Xiao. Let me share my screen. 1 second. And good afternoon, Taipei. Hello from Rotterdam. My name is Chen Xin. On behalf of Green Citizen Action Alliance, abbreviated as GCAA, or in Mandarin, 绿色公民行动联盟. Today, we'd like to share our experiences in the facilitation and the use of open data and its contribution to an open governance system. We will touch upon our experiences in working with both the public and private sector in the project Carbon Footprint, or 透明足迹. And just in case you're wondering what GCAA is, because I noticed that we are sort of an exception here, being a non-governmental body, and probably the only one in its own. Green Citizens Action Alliance, 绿色公民行动联盟. We are an NGO based in Taipei, and on the slides there are 3 major tasks of GCA's focus on environmental advocacy. So first, phase out of nuclear energy. Second, energy transition, and finally, the disclosure of environmental information. And so then, the Carbon Footprint project. The very beginning of this project can be dated back to around 10 years or so ago, or even earlier. Back then, Taiwan was struggling with the transformation from industries that come with very high environmental costs. And GCA was trying to develop a strategy to steer the decision to facilitate the industrial transformation. And meanwhile, GCA was also trying to think outside the box on a new mode of environmental advocacy that is beyond the traditional typical way, or a more conflicting way of the people protesting against the government or companies. We were hoping to establish a dialogue between those parties to resolve the distrust between them. And so then it brings GCA data. And with data, with evidence, GCA was aiming to open up conversation based on evidence, based on data. And then the first question popped up. There is no data available. But is there really no data existed? Of course, no. There is data. There are, of course, according to regulations, data from measurements, and data from all sorts of records. But those data are not yet then accessible to the public. So this is where we started, where Carbon Footprint project sets off. And so then GCA started with seeing Carbon Footprint on open data advocacy. And one major achievement, for instance, was the disclosure of the explanations of certain environmental violation fine records. Before so, we could only see according to which regulation a certain firm got fined, and for what amount, as you can see on the top of this screenshot. But without explanations disclosed, it is very difficult to understand what exactly happened and to tell how serious the incident.
Can I briefly interrupt you? I think your Wi-Fi is not stable, so if it's okay, I think the staff will project your presentations for you, so it will consume less Wi-Fi. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'll have our staff.
So where were we? Okay. Yeah. Next slide, then. Yeah, okay. And so on the figure, you can see that this is, as I mentioned earlier, one of the major achievements, the disclosure of the explanations of certain environmental violation fine records. And before, so we can only see this on the top of this screenshot, according to which regulation certain firm got fined and for what amount. But without explanations disclosed, it is very difficult to understand what exactly happened. And then GCA embarked on this advocacy on opening up this data. There was a lot of back and forth discussion with both the central and the local governments who are in charge of the data, on which this should be defined as some confidential information, or why can we not disclose it? And finally, we agreed to open this data field up. So from the screenshot below, on the left-hand side, you can see that there is an extra paragraph of text describing what the incident was about, for what chemicals, emissions, at what level it was exceeding the standard. And now on the right-hand side, if you navigate to Topping Footprint website, you can find all environmental data sorted, organized, and linked. You can search for a certain company firm, check their environmental performance. And it is worth mentioning that the advocacy of open data is a very lengthy, very long process. It is not merely about the publicization of data itself. It is more about having a continuous recursive conversations with all stakeholders, convincing them that opening up data, opening up conversations with the public, this is not something horrible or to be scared of. And by opening up data, creating a dialogue based on data, we also build trust among the government and citizens. Next slide, please. Okay. I have a slightly different slide. Is it possible to maybe try again using my slides? Yeah, okay, perfect. So to date, there are around 10,000 users per month making use, 10,000, so to one, I think, making use of a Topping Footprint project database. And what impacts and benefits have been made with this? We know companies have been using it for their supply chain management. One concrete example, in their CSR report, it stated that they would regularly check Topping Footprint website to see if their suppliers have any incidents or violations on environmental regulations. And the website has also been used in green finance. We knew this because as GCA would often get calls from firms and companies on requests to update some of their fields, some of the records, because the firms were asked by their investors or banks about their environmental performance, as the investors have seen from Topping Footprint database when they are trying to get a loan or fundings. And finally, GCA ourselves also make use of the data on advocacy for responsible consumption. GCA has developed a mobile app called Scanning Before Buying, or Scanning, whereby scanning barcode on products, consumers could immediately see all the data regarding to the environmental performance of the company which produces the product. And so altogether, this has brought more attention.
Okay, there's some connection issues with the speaker. Do we have the speaker on stage? maybe we will have her wrap up without the slides. I think it's the slides that's causing the connection issues. It's consuming. Oh, I think we lost the speaker. Oh, okay. She's
so
back.
sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that the slides is consuming too much bandwidth of data. So can we have you wrap up like the last 3 minutes of your presentation?
Of course. I'm at
Okay.
the very end. Sorry, I thought I'm in the country that has the most internet speed, but apparently not. This is the second last slide about our next step. So starting this year, Town Footprint has embarked on a more ambitious goal, that is to build an ESG database. So back to GCA's initial motivation that was mentioned at the very beginning of this talk. With Town Footprint, we were aiming to steer the transitions of companies with high environmental costs, urging companies to take more of their responsibilities. And we now face all the pressing problems on climate change, CO2 emissions. I think you are not seeing my slides. That's sad, but so now we're beyond pollution control that we are working towards today. And we are working towards a broader ambition of sustainable development. Therefore, this time we are further expanding the database to include data from a wider aspect for all ESG. And this is still a work in progress, but we hope and we believe that by opening up data, there is an important first step for working towards a standardization of those ESG data. And finally, still not seeing my slides or not? Are you seeing my slides? Yeah, this is the end of my talk with a lot of bit of chaos. But on behalf of Team Footprint, I would like to thank you all for your attention, and as well as the Open Culture Foundation for hosting this forum. And I think we still have a bit of time for questions.
Yes, questions. Now we have some time for Q&A. Do we have any submissions to ask the speaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, if not, I actually have a question. So I'm always curious how, when you interface with the government's data or with your own data, what's the experience like? Do you wish that you have more, better format or better availability from the government side?
Oh, format-wise, I think it is a good question. This is also what we're constantly working on. And I think first, it is also first about opening up a specific data, and then we discuss, how to call it, fine-tune the format that we'd like to have. And actually, if I navigate back to the previous slide, if you can still show it on the part that I do not have much time to talk about. Yeah, my screen, I think. Okay, is it possible? On our next step, for instance, for the ESG database that we are building now, we would also like to urge the government to further open up more data. For instance, especially the financial subsidies we are giving to firms and companies. If you show my screen, not this one, on the ESG data.
Okay, yeah, we have a question. I think you can read the question. You can answer in Chinese or English if you like.
Yeah, this is also what I'm actually touching upon at the moment. So financial subsidies that we are giving to firms and companies, this is one of the most wanting data that we are urging the company to opening up with. So are we still subsidizing companies with extremely high environmental costs, or companies that are lagging behind on their transitions? This is still a work in progress still, but this is what we are working on at the moment. Yes.
Okay. Do we have time for one more question? Okay, so do you want to take on the next?
Yeah. 企业实质受益人. This I'm not, to be honest, not completely familiar with, but and what government platform is our data from? So currently our data are either from the IPA 环保署, and also we use data from 金管会, that I don't know the English term for it. Mostly they're the financial statements of the companies, and we use them to sort of map out all the relations among different companies, the investment flows, so that we know what relations between the companies are. So who is like whose child company, that sort of things. And then we further mapped also all the companies to their factories, firms, plants, 工厂, and then per these 工厂 plants, we have all the emissions data and pollution records. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for Chen for your presentation. It's very, very insightful. And that will wrap up this part on civic space. And we will take a very short break and we'll go into the next keynote section. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.